going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Dad Lives Matter. This episode is actually going to be really, really important. I hope you guys are able to take advantage of this episode. We have our guest today. His name is Mario Espinoza, all the way from El Paso. What's going on, Mario?
Not much. How are you?
Good, brother. Thank you for asking. And Mario is actually a licensed therapist. So this is going to be super exciting. I know a lot of dads deal with mental health issues. So we're going to have some good questions for you, brother. And again, thank you for taking time out of your weekend, to be able to jump on here with us, bro. So,
It's my pleasure.
yeah, man. Are you originally from El Paso?
Yes, born and raised in El Paso. I'm actually currently working out of a clinic in southern New Mexico, which is right across the border in Anthony, Texas, or
Okay.
Anthony, New Mexico. I'm sorry.
Nice, man. How's the weather out there right now?
It's beautiful. We had a really, really mild day. Not cold at all. I've been wearing shorts this whole time. The weather's great.
There you go. So, just so our listeners kind of have an idea of who you are, why don't you tell me a little bit about you, like how old you are, how long you've been doing this, just so they can kind of get an image of you.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm 31 years old. I myself am a stepdad. Um, I've been with my partner and her son for going on, I think, about 8 years now.
Nice.
Um, and I've been in the mental health field since about 2014 or so. I started off as a case manager, doing crisis intervention. Throughout the years, just kind of went up the ladder, did all kinds of different things in the mental health field. And I got my master's degree in 2018. And I've been working as a therapist since then. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. What else would you like to know?
There you go. So I'm just gonna ask a couple questions just to get the ball rolling here.
Mhm.
How long have you been working with families and children?
From the very beginning, so about 2014 or so, just all kinds of crisis intervention for young kids, adolescents, adults. The main work that I did with families was when I was working for an organization called Home Safe here in El Paso. This organization basically is the kind of like the private side of CPS. It was a legislation that was passed in Texas where they tried to privatize the agency. I worked there for about a year and a half, 2 years, and it was just making sure kids were safe. It was making sure families were doing the things they had to do to make sure that the kids were safe, getting services for mom and dad. And unfortunately, the dark side of that is, well, depending on how you look at it, removals and that kind of thing. But I've been doing, family therapy, couples therapy, pretty much from the time I was in the master's program in my internship. So I have quite a good amount of experience working with families.
That's awesome, man. So what actually motivated you into getting into family therapy?
Families are just so interesting the way that just the systems within the family and how everything kind of falls into place and how the it's kind of like a machine. I don't know how else to explain it. Families are so um, what's the word? Diverse, I guess, is the only way I can explain it. And I think what got me into it mostly was kind of looking back at my childhood, my upbringing, my family. And I mean, I'm Hispanic. We all know how Hispanic families work. There's a lot of guilt, a lot of shame.
100%.
Yeah, and I think the thing that really got me going was this idea that I learned in undergraduate school was that the way that we parent is a direct consequence of how we were parented. So we learn how to be parents by our own parents, right?
Yeah.
And it's a difficult cycle to break because a lot of us come from really, I don't know, just not the best situations. Parents have to work; they're not always around. And
Right.
me as a stepdad, it's really difficult for me to kind of like just take a pause and analyze what I'm saying as far as like discipline goes, as far as um, I don't know, just in general, the things that I say, the things that I do to be a parent, and to not end up being like my parents, because not all the things
Of
I did was
course.
100% healthy.
Right. And what you're saying isn't that you don't want to be like your parents. It's just taking the things that didn't work, that
Exactly.
aren't working, and taking those out of the equation.
Hmm.
Right. And that's what we're saying, because that's important, because I think a lot of us, we know, like, hey, our parents tried the best they could. It
Exactly.
just doesn't work. That's not the way that, we're obviously evolving with
Hmm.
time. We're learning new things, like I'm the same. I'm Hispanic, grew up in a very heavy gang related family. So there's a lot of machista going on, and for those of you who don't know, machista is just like a man's man, like real prideful men.
Exactly.
And so there was, you couldn't talk about your feelings. That wasn't even an option. Depression was not, and you guys gotta understand, this is just something that, like, I know that a lot of us grew up with. A lot of Mexicans say, like, not to offend anyone, but depression is like a white person thing. It's a Caucasian thing, and it's not true. But that's kind of the way we grew up, right? Like
Yeah.
my mom and dad would be like, no, you're getting Americanized. That's an American thing.
Hmm.
So, which affects you. It really does affect you. And not only Mexicans, right? Like, I know I have a lot of Filipino friends who are like that. Dominicans, Puerto Rican, Latin America, African American. It's not just Mexicans, but it is really rooted to the Hispanics for sure.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
that's definitely something that a lot of us deal with.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you said you have a stepchild, correct?
Yes, yes.
Only one?
One, yes.
Okay. And do you have any children of your own?
No,
No.
not yet.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome.
Hoping for some soon, but we'll see. We'll see how things work out.
That's awesome. And so with me, this is a very important question for me. And this is more like a personal thing,
Yeah.
because putting myself in the position that I put myself in, I didn't expect this to blow up the way it did. I'll be honest with you, man. I mean, sorry, excuse me. We're over 53,000 now, maybe 54, 55 now, 1,000 followers.
Yeah, that's
And we did
great.
that like in 6 weeks, bro. It happened fast. So I'm transparent about it. I did not expect to be in the position that I'm in. And so being in the position that you're in, you have to be careful of the things you say. You have to be careful of the way you act. And
Hmm.
so my question to you is, based on what you've seen, how you found us, how do you feel that we're doing as a community? Like, do you think what we're doing is important? Do you think what we're doing can change lives? Like, are we on the right path?
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think this group is amazing. I'm always for communities of men trying to help each other out. This is like one big support group, is the way I see it. When I saw the first kind of like TikTok ad that I came across, I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm so excited about this. I'm so happy that men can come together and talk about their feelings, because men are
Hmm.
so, in general, men are so afraid of doing that, of talking about their feelings, of being vulnerable, of showing emotion, of being loving even to their own children, because what does it mean about me? And
Right.
I think this is so, so important, and we need to keep this going.
Awesome, man. Thank you. And I just want to make sure, because you come from more of a professional side of things,
Hmm.
and I have to tell people all the time, like, hey, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I'm none of the above.
Right.
And sometimes I'm like, hey, I suffer from PTSD. I suffer from depression. I suffer from anxiety. I'm very clear on these things.
Hmm.
I can only tell you what worked for me. And then we like to open the platform to see what worked for other dads and try to find like that common ground, right? Like, oh,
Exactly.
like when I walk, it helps my anxiety, something there. So we try to be super, super clear about that. And with
Exactly.
that being said, um, what was the first video? Like, what caught your attention? What brought you to Dad Lives Matter?
Well,
What was it?
like I said, I stumbled across just a video where I think it was you just kind of saying like, "Hey, like take a minute, to listen or to hear me out. And, we're doing Dad's Life Matters.
Was it the one where I'm walking up to the camera?
Yeah, I think that was the one.
Okay.
And I saw it, and just like I said, instantly, I was just like, "Oh my god, this is going to be so awesome!" And I caught one of the live streams a while back, last week, I believe it was, where we had a really, emotional talk with one of the dads on there about him losing his child.
Oh, Eli.
Eli, yeah,
daughter.
Exactly, Eli.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, I don't know if anyone noticed, but I did reach out in the little chat and said, Eli, if he's needing any kind of mental health services, I would be glad to oblige.
That's awesome, man.
So Eli, if you're listening, feel free to reach out to me, man.
That's awesome.
We can talk. But yeah, no, it was just so important, I think, because I came into my stepson's life when he was around 3 years old, and I had no idea what I was doing. And to have support from others, to have people who already have some experience being fathers, being stepdads, and just being open and learning new things, this group is just so important for, I think, all kinds of fathers.
And so one of the mistakes that I made on that video was I didn't clarify when I said dads, I mean all dads, which I'm glad you're saying that, right? Like stepdads, people that want to be dads, dads that are single dads, like tall dads, little dads, it doesn't matter, just being a dad, you know what I mean? And so I'm glad you said that, like bringing that up, it's an all dads thing. So
and I think in general, just the idea of having to like define what kind of a father you are is a bit crazy. The other day I just had this experience with my stepson's teacher, who wanted to speak to one of his parents over Zoom. So I grabbed his tablet and was talking, and she called me by his last name, which is not mine, obviously. And I had to correct her, and just very, kindly said, it's Mr. Espinoza. And she kind of was like, "Oh, are you stepdad?" And I was like, "Yeah." It doesn't become a reality to me that he's not mine until something like that happens. Like, other than that, it's just this very natural thing for us.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just so you know a little bit about me, because I haven't shared too much about my story, right? So people kind of get an idea, but I'm a stepfather. I was a single father, and now we have an ours. So we have a hers, mine, and ours, So I can relate to three different types of dads. The dad that had to fight for custody for his son, which I won custody, and I was a single dad. I can relate to being a stepfather, the struggles of being a stepfather, and the blessings of being a stepfather, right? And now, my son's mom, we're raising the third one together. I have two baby moms, so we're raising a child together. So I can relate to three different types of dads. And that was one of the things that I was like, wow, hey, I can relate to you guys, And it's true. Like with my daughter, like I forget that she's my stepdaughter, right? I'm like, that's my daughter. Like, so what do you mean? And I think we all forget. And then something comes up and you're like, oh yeah, I'm stepdad. Because we don't say stepdad, right? Like we say mom, dad, boom, 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 daughter.
Exactly.
So, but that's I love that because it says a lot about the relationship, like how, where your relationship is at and the importance of who we are in their lives as well. And with that being said, being in the position you are as a stepfather, how do you feel that's changed in the way you do your job? Or has it?
Yeah, no, definitely. Of course it has. One of the things that they teach you early on in school for therapy is this idea of transference, countertransference, which is where you see yourself in a client, or a client kind of like sees someone that they have feelings for or have a relationship with in you as a therapist. And my biggest struggle working with younger kids into like early adolescence is that I see my son in some of these clients, and it just breaks my heart. And it's so difficult to remove yourself from that because you just want to like be just invested. You want to do everything you can for these children. But you also have to have those professional boundaries, and it can be difficult. And so they always tell us, you have to be able to identify when that's happening. If it's getting in the way, you need to refer out. Luckily, it hasn't been a big barrier for me. I've been able to work with these kids really, really well. But I just remember very recently, I had a crisis with a little girl I really hadn't worked with before. She called in. She was referred by the school, I think it was, and I just had an opening, so they kind of just plopped her in my space, and she just was bawling, crying. She was having suicidal ideations. She just felt so unloved, and it broke my heart. And I really struggled through that one session. Luckily, we were able to get her hospitalized, but it was tough. It was really tough because all I kept thinking about was my son.
Yeah, of course. That is tough, man. And with that being said, you know, I wanted the audience to kind of get to know you and who you are. So I had to ask those questions.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get to the more specific questions. That's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So, one thing you mentioned right now, and this is something I went through recently. You said suicidal ideations.
Yes.
Can you explain to our? I just learned about this, so this is really cool that you're talking about it because I think it is important that we learn the verbiage with it. You know?
Yeah. Sure.
So can you explain to our listeners what that actually means?
Yeah, definitely. So there's actually different kind of levels of ideations, quote unquote. We can start off with the idea of self-harm, which could be things like cutting, burning, hitting, just causing pain to yourself in some way. And this excludes, piercings and tattoos. That's a whole other kind of, thing. And then we move up to this idea of suicidal ideations. And so basically suicidal ideations, an ideation is kind of like a thought. So people experiencing suicidal ideations will have thoughts of suicide. These thoughts could be with a plan of how they would carry it out, and without a plan. So it's just kind of like passive death wishes. I wish I would fall asleep and never wake up, that kind of thing. And then we actually move up into suicidal gestures, which would be attempting, taking pills, cutting yourself to make yourself bleed, just all those kinds of, things. Interesting fact, men attempt suicide less than women, but men are more successful at it. And so I think that's a really important thing for us dads here to understand and realize. And the reason being is because women tend to use less lethal means, like taking pills, which doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Dads tend to use things like, guns or hanging, stuff like that. So they're more successful at it, unfortunately. We're more successful at it. I think the biggest thing when it comes down to it is that us as men, we're just not allowed by society in general to express our feelings and to talk about what's going on. So we don't seek help as often as women do.
Why do you think that is though? Like now I'm getting the rhythm going. Now I'm feeling this. Now I'm really gonna pick your brain here.
Yeah, for sure.
Why is that? Why from what you know, why do you think men we have to be like that?
I think it's just expected from us as a society, especially in like the Latin. Like I can't speak for many other races. I myself am. My dad's from Paraguay. My mom's Mexican, and I just kind of grew up in this environment where it's like, don't be. It goes down to the idea of like, don't be like a little girl.
Yeah.
Girls are allowed to feel emotions. Girls are allowed to express themselves.
Right.
Men are not. You have to tough it up.
Yeah.
Get through it, be a man, get over it. And that's the message we get growing up. So when we're older and we're sitting there and we're feeling the way we feel, it's just so difficult for us to say, hey, I think I need help, because we're not allowed to ask for help. We have to have everything figured out.
Right. No, definitely. And, this hits close to home because I haven't actually talked about this. I haven't even made a video about it. I haven't really talked about it. It's the first time I'm actually going to talk about it where it's actually recorded. And I hope I don't offend anybody in my family. But when I was going through depression a few years back, right? And when I went through depression, I didn't go, what's the word again? Suicidal
ideations.
Ideations. Thank you. So I didn't have any suicidal ideations. What actually happened to me was during my depression, I understood why people committed suicide. So for the first time ever, I was like, oh, this feeling sucks. This is awful. I get why people commit suicide. Like I understood it, right? And so around that time, my cousin reaches out to me and he goes, hey, I'm going through depression as well. He's a father. He's a few years older than I am. I'm in my 30s. He was in his 40s. And he's like, I'm going through it too. Well, I didn't know that he had asked for help. So he actually reached out to my family. So I didn't know he actually reached out to my family. And my family basically said, like, you know, pray about it, basically. You know, like, yeah, like just pray about it. God will help you. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, if that's the type of meditation that works for you, that's fine. But when you need help, right? And he needed help, and so they almost pushed it aside and were like, "Oh, that's you just pray about it, it'll go away." And so he didn't get the help, even though he asked for it. And it almost like they I don't want to say they turned their backs to him. I don't want to say that word, but it was almost like figure it out, kind of, right? Like it's not a depression is not real, right? And God rest his soul, he actually ended up hanging himself. Yeah, man. And he left beautiful kids behind, my little cousins. And he's a very good looking guy. He was active. You know, he was financially doing well. You know, I know he financially struggled, but for the most part, he was doing well. I mean, he lived in Cardiff, you know, like good, solid dude. And that was around the same time I was going through depression. So I went to go see a therapist immediately. And my therapist said, man, I would have given you 3 more months and I think you would have been next.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, whoa, it hit so different. And this is something that I really want to push, and I want to make sure I'm doing it right. So that's why this podcast was so important to us. I want to make sure I'm doing it right when I'm telling people like ask for help.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, because I mean, can you explain to us why it's so important for us to ask for help?
Yeah, I mean, easily it's the difference between life or death. So you were able to reach out to get help. Luckily, unfortunately for your cousin, he just didn't feel comfortable enough to reach out to the right people, or rather, he reached out to his family, and he got, well, you know, figure it out, pray about it.
Yeah.
Praying is definitely an important coping skill for many people.
Right.
But when you're at the point where you're really having these ideations, it's important to have an intervention and not coping, because at that point, coping has failed. So you really got to get into see a therapist, see a psychiatrist, probably get yourself admitted to a mental health hospital. There's no shame in that. And I think a lot of people feel shame in the idea of, well, I mean, they're going to think I'm crazy. And it's not about being crazy. It's not about, you know, who you are. It's just that you need help and you need to be in a safe place.
Let's talk about that. Actually, because I think a lot of the people are going to have questions about that. I have questions about that. My fear was that I was going to end up in a hospital. That's actually a fear of mine. Like I was like, I don't want to end up in a hospital. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Like what, like you're saying, there's nothing wrong with going there and getting help. Can we go a little bit into that?
Yeah, definitely.
Look like?
So I have worked in several inpatient settings before. It's definitely a difficult experience, but it's absolutely necessary when you are in that situation that you need that help. And what I mean by difficult is that you kind of have to be open and vulnerable. And it's very difficult for a lot of people to be open and vulnerable in that kind of setting. I guarantee you, if you get admitted to a hospital, you're having any kind of ideations or you're having thoughts of suicide, you're absolutely going to be better off going and getting yourself admitted. It also is important, the work that you put in, if you're able to be open, if you're able to cooperate, if you're able to be part of your own treatment, you know, again, you're going to be more successful in the long run. And I absolutely understand the fear that comes with being admitted to a hospital. It's a little bit different for me because I experienced this through a medical standpoint rather than a mental health standpoint. But I was admitted recently in November to a medical hospital because my heart was not working the way it wasn't pumping correctly. And the guy said, we're going to have to admit you to the hospital. You're going to spend a couple nights there. And I was like, oh my God, what do you mean? Like, I can't go to the hospital, especially now with like COVID and all that kind of stuff. I was like, no. And the guy was like, just no, don't worry about it. Like, it's going to be cool. You're going to be good. Everything's fine. The doctor was very, very, very reassuring. And I think if there's somebody there to kind of explain to you the way that this doctor explained to me, the way that I've explained to clients that I recommend admission for, it just feels better. It's an easier process to go through, with the reassurance, because in the back of your head, while you're going through all this, you're thinking, well, what are people going to think of me? What are people going to say about me? What is my family going to think of me?
I think my fear for me was, yeah, like what are people going to think, right? Does that mean I'm crazy? Like that's kind of what I thought, right? Like, does this mean I'm crazy? And then I thought, wait, am I we're gonna can I lose my job because of this? This is things that I was thinking, right? I was like, no one's gonna hire me if they find out about this, you know. So I started processing all these thoughts. Is any of that true?
Nope, absolutely not. HIPAA pretty much guarantees that no one's going to know about it unless you self-disclose in some way.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of people who have been to mental health hospitals, and have benefited greatly, and nobody knows. I'm sure of it.
That's awesome. So for all the listeners who are on here, I hope you guys are getting a lot of this information. So one of the things that I've learned, Mario, is that I talk about my situation openly to kind of how hopefully that people can relate to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was on and off medication. Well, actually, here's what happened. I got depression. After my depression, I was put on melatonin. No, not melatonin.
That's for sleep.
Yeah. I was put on Wellbutrin.
Wellbutrin.
Which I was like, cool, because I have ADHD. This worked out, and then I was able to kick it within a year. I was able to get back on without my medication.
Good. That's a really, really good time frame. A year. That's great.
Thanks, man. So check this out, though. One of the side effects is anxiety. They didn't tell me that, or I wasn't listening to. They did, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, I'm in the mountains with my family.
No, sorry. When I went to my first session, before I got the doctor that I got, I went through four different doctors. The first thing I said was, I do not want any medication. I don't want to do
You get that a lot.
medication
Yeah.
because I know myself. I I dealt with a little bit of alcohol abuse. It took me a while, but now I'm able to keep it at bay. But going back just a few minutes, on the first session with this doctor, um, I was so closed off.
Mm.
It was hard for me, because uh, I'm Dominican from New York, and my mentality is uh, I don't know how you're gonna use what I tell you if you're gonna use it against me.
Mm.
I'm always guarded, like
Trust issues.
make protecting myself. Uh, at the end of the first session,
Which, hold on. I want to justify that, or I want to double that, or I want to talk on that. Jeez, I can't get my words together. Protecting yourself, and what that ends up doing, it ends up harming yourself,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
And that's important for our listeners to know. Like, you actually end up doing a lot more harm when you think you're protecting yourself.
Exactly.
And I decided to stay with her because at the end, she called me on my BS.
That's good.
She told me, listen, you're dodging questions, you're giving me vague answers. I'm here to help you. But if you don't let me help you, there's nothing I can do.
Mm.
And again, that's my mentality as a Latino man. I was raised as you are a rock.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever life throws at you, you take it with your mouth shut.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
that's just so unrealistic. We have to be honest.
Yeah.
We're humans. We're humans.
And I
Yeah, but
love that you use that word unrealistic. Like, right? For all our listeners, like, understand what we're saying. It's unrealistic. And I love that.
yeah, and I was going through a
Sorry, Freddie.
rough.
Keep going.
No, it's okay, bro. I was going through a rough period because of my own doing. Um, and I decided to seek therapy because I was having major anxiety attacks,
Oh God.
uh, like paralyzing anxiety attacks, to the
Ugh.
point that my happened at work, and my boss had to pull me aside and like, yo, what's going on? That's when I broke down and I told him what was happening.
Yeah.
Uh, and he's the one to push me like, please seek help. I don't want anything to happen to you.
And I'm glad your
Uh,
boss said that, because one thing that I have been noticing as well, and I don't know if you noticed this, Mario, or this is something that happens. People are actually way more empathetic than we think they are
Exactly. Yeah.
towards
Uh,
it, right?
yeah. Our own ideas about how people are going to respond to our cries for help is also unrealistic.
Yeah.
We just hear the worst about, again, what are they going to think about me? What are they going to say about me? What does this mean
Hmm.
about me? And really, the reality is, the majority of the time, if we reach out to somebody who we can trust, they're going to help the best that they can. I
Yeah.
guarantee it. Unless they're not educated or understand, the whole process.
Right.
But I think for the most part, people nowadays just know. And as a matter of fact, if you don't mind, I'd like to give a little plug to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline right now.
Yeah. Please, let's do that. That's a
Absolutely.
great idea.
The number is 1-800-273-8255,
One more time.
or 1-800-273-8255, or 1-800-273-TALK. I highly recommend anybody out there listening that thinks they need help, please, please, please reach out.
I love
There,
that you gave that number. And that is that a nationwide number?
yeah.
Okay.
So
This is great.
typically how it works. Every county kind of has like a hub for mental health. And anytime somebody calls, depending on the area code, it'll connect them to the closest kind of hub.
Mm.
And so you'll be talking to somebody very likely in your county, in your area, and they can help you, get direction as far as like where to go to get help, what hospital you can go, or heck, I mean, even if they need to send PD out to help you out, they'll do that as well.
What happens if someone doesn't have insurance?
The majority of the time, those hubs that I'm talking about, they're called local mental health authorities. At least here in Texas, I'm not too familiar how it is in other states, except for Texas and New Mexico. I know that there's laws that say that if you don't have insurance, they have to help you no matter what. So, the cost gets figured out later, but they make sure that you're safe regardless.
Awesome. And that's really important for us to have that phone number.
Mhm.
And
I
so
know that
for,
here in sorry for any
no, go
if
ahead.
we have anybody here in New York, I know we have a couple of guys from New York State. Um, at the moment that that happened, I not only had the restaurant that I worked closed while I was going through this, so I lost my job,
Oof.
and the therapist that I worked that worked with me, I was paying out of pocket, but she was very open and listen, if you cannot afford it, doesn't matter, come,
Yeah,
don't worry
exactly.
about it,
Hmm.
come,
Yeah, I
because
agree.
first is get you help.
Yeah.
And I a couple of the places that I went before her, it was the same thing. The fact that I was uninsured and unemployed, it didn't matter. They were open to help. Um, uh, there's in the New York State website, there is a link for it. I'm gonna post it on the show notes.
Great.
And for all our listeners, you guys understand how important this episode is, man. This is an episode where we're talking about getting help and the unrealistic living conditions that society puts on us. You know what I mean? Like, we're all human at the end of the day, and honestly, I think my baby mama is tougher than I am, to be honest with you guys. So this whole like big tough guy thing, like physically, of course, obviously I can take her. You know what I mean? That's not the point. I'm talking about like she's a lot tougher than I am. So when people say like, oh, women are emotional, they're being this, like honestly, she's a pretty tough cookie. I still am like, no, I got my family. Don't trip. Like I'll
Mhm.
hold everybody on my back. Damn it, I got this. And it's not true. I need help, and
Right.
I have to ask for help. And now that I ask for help once, it's gotten a lot easier for me to start asking for help.
Yeah, for sure. At the same rate, it's important for our kids to see, especially our boys. It's
Mm,
important for them to see us being vulnerable. It's important for them to see us asking for help, because as they're growing up, they know it's okay for me to do that. I can do
hmm.
that, and I'm not going to be judged for it. And it's okay to show emotion. It's okay to show vulnerability. If we model that for our boys, I guarantee they're going to grow up more healthier, a lot more healthier than we did, for sure, because my dad was not that way. My dad was a Marine, He was very disciplined and, right and wrong, black and white. And I struggle because I try to parent myself that way sometimes. And I have to like take a step back and say, no, I can't do that. I have to be able to figure this out a different way, but it's just hard. It's hard sometimes. And it's okay to admit that. I mean, I have no issue saying I don't have it all figured out. I don't know how to be the best dad, but I'm learning, and me and my partner are figuring it out together. And I think that's really, really important for listeners to know.
And I love that you said that as well, because I think a lot of us get caught up in the situation where like, oh, he's a psychiatrist. He knows everything. Like automatically he's going to be a great dad.
No.
Right. and I like that because it's true. Like one thing I learned about having a daughter and a son, that my daughter naturally is very caring, like mom. Like she takes care of her little brother. My son, complete opposite. He doesn't know. He's like, oh, bro. He doesn't know. And like what I've noticed is that, man, we need to learn how to become parents, right? A lot of moms, they're just so natural to it. They just know how to be moms. And dads, like, it's hard. We have to learn, dude, there was a lot of moments where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going crazy. I don't know what I'm doing, And so being patient with myself was a big deal. Being patient with my kids was a big deal. Like, hey, it's okay. I'll figure this out. And we live and learn. So being in the position that you are, right, as a psychiatrist, that's something very respectful, right? Like you have to get a master's degree. You did a lot of education to get where you're at, and you put in a lot of work. So can you tell me a little bit about your journey as a father? Like how was that journey becoming like a stepfather in the beginning to where you're at now?
Right. I just want to correct you very briefly. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm a
therapist,
licensed mental health counselor. Yeah, I'm a therapist.
Thank you. Sorry.
The difference is I can't prescribe medication. I know a lot about the medication that we use with our clients. I just can't prescribe it myself. That's not within my scope of practice.
No, I'm glad that you corrected me. Keep doing that to make sure that because this is super important, right? Like having you here is super important to us, man. Like we're so grateful. So please, like if anything I say, like just, hey, let me fix it.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm just really honored to be on here, honestly.
Thanks,
yeah. So it's just funny that you mentioned like, oh, because he's learned all this, he's been to school for it, he practices it with clients, he should have being a dad figured out. And honestly, I don't know sometimes what the heck I'm doing. I'm hoping that I am doing more good than harm in the long run. And that's just, realistic, because this is my first time being a dad.
Yeah.
And it happened for me a little later in life than most of people in my family. A lot of my cousins already have, 2-3 kids. I don't have any other than my stepson, who I'm just so glad to be part of his life. So, interesting fact, my partner is also a therapist.
Oh, no way.
So we're both therapists, and you would think, oh man, like their home life must be perfect. Really, we have disagreements, we have arguments, we fight like everyone does. She gets mad at me for stuff that I have no idea why, and later I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's why I really screwed that up.
Yeah.
And it's just normal. It's just normal. I think people have this idea that for a relationship to be healthy, that means that there's no fighting. There's never any fighting. And actually, that's a really big red flag. I think fighting is such an important part of being in a relationship, as long as you're able to do it correctly. So as far as me being a therapist and being a dad, it's two hats. It's two separate hats. And when I get home after doing sessions, therapist hat comes off and the dad hat comes on. And I try to implement a lot of what I know. But it's all at the moment, it's all very improvised. And I think that's what being a dad is about, is just figuring out and improvising and going with what works and figuring out what doesn't. Because our kids aren't textbooks. They're not going to be what's in the books that I learned. They're their own individuals. They have their own experiences, their own ideas. And we got to get to know that as dads.
Yeah, no, I love that, because I read the textbooks and I'm like, wait a second, time out. I mean, there was a couple things that I was like, oh, I learned that on the book. I remember that. But for the most part, I was like, my kids are so different. I have 3 of them, and all 3 of them are completely different.
Right.
I mean, you could see it when you hang out with these kids, So I love that textbook thing that you just said. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, man. So a couple more questions, really quick.
Cool.
So we do have a dad. We're not going to mention any names, right? And let me know what I am allowed to ask. Because if I ask something, you can be like, "Hey, I can't answer that." Please let me know, okay?
Okay.
Um, we do have a dad that has been reaching out to us. He's like, "I'm going through this. I'm dealing with depression," and we advise them as best as we can. Like, hey, I do for me what works. I walk 2 miles every day. That's been working a lot. I'm on medication, just so everybody knows. Like, I
Good.
take a daily medication now. Yep, I do have a therapist now that I do see. But the moments that I feel the best, where I'm like, oh, I'm feeling good again. I'm feeling normal. Like, all right, I'm loving this vibe. Is when I'm taking my medication and I walk 2 miles every day. That's usually when I feel the best, you know?
Mhm.
And it did, I do want to say though, it took 5 weeks on my medication to feel better.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Like it wasn't an instant like I feel better right away. I had to make a lot of change. I changed my diet. I stopped drinking alcohol. I started walking 2 miles every day, and I took my medication every day. And now I'm like, oh, sweet. Okay, I feel it now. So I just want to mention that to anybody who's like, oh, I'll just take medication and it's instant. It wasn't for me.
Um,
Is that normal?
uh, yeah, it's very, very normal. 4 to 5 weeks sounds about right. Psychotropic medication typically takes about 4 to 5 weeks to build up in the blood to get to a very good therapeutic level. So you're right. It's not from one day to another. It takes time. It takes great, learning coping skills like you and your walking, and it takes having a therapist to kind of balance everything out. So you did everything the way that is recommended. People who are taking medication oftentimes tell me that they're so frustrated because I've been taking this for 5 days and I don't feel a difference. And I
Yeah,
have to tell them, you're not going to feel it yet. It's going to take some time to build in your
yeah.
blood. So
And
that's a good,
that shit sucks to hear that
yeah,
when you're going through it. When I
exactly.
was going through it, they told me that like, oh, you still have 4 more weeks. I'm like, whoa, 4 more weeks, man. I don't know if I can go 4 more hours.
Exactly.
but I was able to do it because I started doing other things on top of it, like
Right. So the
walking,
coping. Mhm.
right, changing my diet. So we do have a dad that's like, hey, I've done all of that and it doesn't work for me. So when you get someone like that, what kind of recommendation do you make at that point? Is that something where you're like, you might want to go to the hospital?
Not so much. The hospitals
Mhm.
typically are emergency based, so they'll take you in if you're having active, suicidal ideations and that kind
Mhm.
of thing. Um, I think intensive outpatient would be appropriate, meaning just like maybe being seen a couple of times a week instead of just the once a week or every other
Mm.
week that most therapists have. And it's a real priority to explore coping, explore what does work for you, what's worked for you in the past, what
Yeah.
doesn't work for you. Um, and a lot of times it's something that we call psychoactivation. So it's just getting yourself active. So for you, walking.
Yeah. Yeah. Changing
Um,
your environment, right?
exactly, and just doing everything you can to keep active, just to keep going. Because if you allow yourself to stop, then things kind of start to um, decrease as far as like the depression you're feeling. You don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to cook for yourself. You just want to order a bunch of junk food, and all
Yeah.
that just kind of sends you down.
Yeah.
Um, uh, what's the word? Down
Down a rabbit hole.
rabbit hole. Yeah.
Listen,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
you said what you said about changing environment, that hits home with me.
And that's
Um, because I'm by profession, I'm a classically trained chef. Um, I've been a chef in New York for a little over 10 years, and I was most of my career was in the small restaurants, casual. Those small restaurants kitchens are very volatile. They're very testosterone fuel. Even women are tougher. Women chefs are tougher than men and rougher. Um, it took me to decide to finally decide to make a change to a corporate environment where everything's a lot more calm and subdued and by the books, to start letting, because I've suffered anger issues, to start letting go of that anger, to start changing my perspective in when it comes to holding it together, uh, and that was huge. Yeah, and I'm assuming that was the help learning, like going outside and walking,
Hmm.
a change of environment that's really that it helped me a lot.
Yeah, and that's something I struggled with because during my depression, I didn't even want to leave my house. Like I had to force myself. So I correlated, if I want to feel better, I got to walk. So I don't want to feel like this, so I have to walk. So I correlated those feelings together, and it's been really working for me. Like what is that, cognitive healing, I guess, or cognitive training. To be like, oh, if this I do this, I can feel this.
Right.
And it's been working. So, but that's just working for me, right? Everybody's different. So, with that being said, if because of the situation you're in, right? Because of the stories that you see, and just for our listeners, I really want you guys to pay attention to this because this is going to be a very important question I'm going to ask. Um, what is one recommendation or even three recommendations, right? Where you're like, you really are like, I want you guys to know about this. Like for me, going through what I went through, the one thing I like almost talk about constantly, I'm like, guys, just ask for help. Like, I'm like, just do it. Just do it. It's okay. Just ask for help. My thing is go for a walk and try meditation. And it's okay to take medication. That's like the thing that I'm like, do that. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
What's your thing where you can be like, this is one of the most important things that I can leave you guys with?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, before I answer that, I just kind of want to go back to the last part we were talking about real quick, just
Yes.
briefly, and for the dad in the group that
Oh, yeah, yeah.
is struggling with
Yeah.
finding something that works for him. It really really depends on what's going on with him. So meaning, what is the source of the trauma or the depression? Rather, is there some trauma behind it?
Mm.
Is there some underlying things that are not being addressed that is maybe stopping the individual from having coping that works in a positive way? Then we need to look at the type of therapy that they're receiving. So cognitive behavioral therapy is something that works really great with some people. But if there's deep complex traumas, it's going to be difficult to get those things out. So we need to do something
Mm.
like CPT or EMDR. So it's the rapid eye movement desensitization. I have a hard time saying that. Which I'm not actually trained in myself. It's something that I'm hoping to do soon. Just that with COVID and all this stuff, it's really difficult to get into a class. But the source of what's happening is really, really important, and dads out there have to really be open to not avoiding those things and actually working on them. And if you're able to not avoid, then I guarantee more coping is going to be able to work with you. So there you go.
Yeah, no, thank you.
um, as for the things to leave the listeners with, I think something I talk to my clients about all the time, all the time, all the time. I think is number one, and I've mentioned it within your live streams once or twice. Is we need to focus on self care. Whatever helps us feel better, to regenerate, to process, to kind of like end the day with, we need to do those things. So like for me, my biggest thing is playing video games. I love to play video games. I have no shame. I'm a 31-year-old male man, and I play video games. There's nothing wrong with that. It really helps to kind of like just let the day kind of end for me. And luckily, my partner is very, very understanding of that and allows me to have that
Mm.
time. But it is what it is for every individual. So, like you mentioned, for you, walking is your kind of form of
Mhm.
self care.
Yeah.
Family time could be that. Really, anything. I think
So self care is something that you love doing.
exactly, exactly.
Okay.
Anything that you love doing, anything that makes you feel better. I always recommend to my clients, dude, just like take a bath, get some bubbles going. Just try to relax. And they're like, oh, take a bath. Like, what? I'm not a woman. Why would I take a bath?
Yeah.
Just do it. Just do it. Get in the bath, warm water, bubbles, some candles. I guarantee you're going to be so freaking relaxed if
Yeah.
you're able to be in that environment. So, self care. Self care is something that I push hard on my clients. You need to take care of yourself. How are you going to take care of others if you yourself are not taken care of?
Mm.
Um, the next big thing I always tell my clients, especially men, is cry. Have a good cry once in a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
Crying helps so much,
Yeah.
and it's okay to cry. It's totally
Yeah.
fine.
No, we talk about this a lot where we're like, hey, cry, let it out. Don't even stop
Yeah,
right now. Just let it out, you know? So
exactly.
I'm glad you said that. One of my biggest moments was I was having suicidal ideations.
Ideations. Mhm.
Yeah, I said it right. I was having my first suicidal ideations not too long ago, about 2 months ago. And it scared the living shit out of me to where the point where I got out of bed, ran over to baby mama's room and was like, I'm going crazy. I need help right now. Stop everything. I'm actually contemplating suicide and it needs to stop. So we called a therapist, did everything, we followed the guidelines on how to do it. And then I immediately downloaded a cognitive training ebook. Let me tell you what it is, just in case anybody wants to read this book. So it is called Feeling Good. So the book is called Feeling Good, The New Mood Therapy by David Burns. I haven't finished it. And what I ended up doing was I immediately left my house, put that book on, and left. And he started talking about some things in the very beginning that really hit me hard. And I can feel a tear coming on. And then all of a sudden, waterfall, just boom, everything came out, bro. Like the ugly cry, like the boogers, like,
It's the best kind of cry.
oh man, I felt brand new. I was like, oh, I'm fixed. I don't have depression no more. I'm good. But that was such a good feeling. And I stand behind what you're saying, not as a therapist, but as a man saying, yeah, no, I'll co-sign that. Like I feel way better after a good cry.
Yeah.
Because I'll still cry once in a while, and I hold it in still, like like I'm not crying, you're crying. You know what I mean? And when I don't do that, and I just let it out, like even just putting my face in a pillow and just letting it all out, I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, it's like all this weight comes off your shoulders.
Exactly. Yeah, that's definitely a positive coping skill. Something I can get behind.
Awesome, brother. So obviously, man, we can pick your brain back and forth. Like I know you have a lot of great knowledge. I really love your energy, by the way. Like
Thank
I
you.
really vibing with you. Um, we want to ask. We don't want to blow you up. So just for all the guys that are on here, please don't blow him up with a bunch of questions. Like we'll figure it out because you will get blown up, bro. And we don't want that. We want it to be, organic and within its time, right?
Mhm.
And we still want to ask you this. Is it something that we could do with you where we'll ask our followers, like, hey, ask us a question that you guys want us to ask you, right? And then if we get enough of the same questions, we'll ask you once a month and then we can share it with our followers. Is that something you're okay with?
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely. I would love to be a part of this.
Awesome.
For sure, for sure. You guys hit me up whenever. I'll try to lend as much knowledge as I have and is within my scope. If I don't know the answer to something, I will talk to my colleagues and see what we can come up with. Which is a huge part of therapy. Also, is just kind of conversing with other individuals in the profession and just trying to figure things out. So yeah, for sure, absolutely, I'm totally good with that.
Cool, man. That's awesome, and I'm excited. We're gonna hire you as our in-house therapist.
Great.
That
I
lives
agree.
matter.
Yes, I am all for that. I think it's important to have somebody that can do that. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome, man. No, I love that. Freddie, did you hear that? Freddie's our co-host. I don't know where he's at. He's in his kids' rooms.
Yeah.
He was like, "We gotta ask him. We gotta ask him." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, let's do it. Let's." We're all excited. Freddie, are you still there? I can hear you. We can't hear you, brother. Okay, he's still with us.
Trying to hear something.
Okay. Uh, I'm having a little issues. All right, our co-host is having a little bit of issues, guys. I apologize. Do you have any questions for him, Mario, or Freddie? Do you have any questions for Mario? No, man. Okay, cool. Is there anything before? Okay, I do have a question. Just completely off the subject. What do you think of the name of Dad Lives Matter? What's your
I
thought? Like honest thought.
Yeah. So it's a good name because dad's lives obviously matter. Um, when I first saw it, I was like, wait, so like, is this politicized in some way?
Yeah.
Um, things with politics recently have been very stressful for a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
So at first when I saw it, I was like, wait, a little skeptical. But once I actually started seeing the videos, live streams,
Yeah.
I think it's perfect. I think it really draws in, because like if we're thinking about like the Black Lives Matter movement, for example, which is something that is important. It's about this. It's kind of about this this idea that their lives aren't really taken into perspective and aren't appreciated and aren't accepted
Mm-hmm.
at the same rate as fathers. In the same way that we were talking today about how, we're not allowed to have emotions, we're not allowed to have feelings. I think those sort of things aren't talked about. And if this name covers that, then I think we really hit the nail on the head.
Awesome.
So I think it's a good idea.
Awesome. And just so you know, I actually started Dad Lives Matter way before it came back. So that Black Lives Matter has always been around. It's been around for a while, right? But recently in 2020, it made this bigger jump, right? Like because of what happened, obviously.
Right.
We had Dad Lives Matter before that already.
Okay.
And so this was the whole thing we were supposed to start, and then it just took off, and we just always decided to keep the name. The reason why I wanted to keep the name is because when you hear it, you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Clear in the message, right? And the other thing too is like I wanted to create awareness, right? Because that's what Black Lives Matter is. It's creating awareness. Like, hey, this is what's going on over here because no one's paying attention over here, right?
Exactly.
And that's the same.
Can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you now, brother.
Okay.
And
really quick, I'm gonna jump back. Two things. Fernie, I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Yeah, please.
We need to send Mario some merch.
Absolutely.
Please.
Yes, absolutely.
And Mario, the way we're gonna do it is the following. Once we get the questions, we're gonna vet them. We're gonna send them to you. Give you time to get the response ready. You let us know when it's ready for us to give you a call, and we ask the question.
Do you have
That'll make it easier
FaceTime?
for you.
Or do you have FaceTime? Do you have Facebook?
Yeah, I have a Facebook.
Because you know what we just found out, Freddie, is that we could actually go live on our Facebook. So if you follow our Facebook group, you can go live with us, and we could ask these questions live on the Facebook, and then it stays recorded and it posts on the Facebook.
All right.
Did you hear that? That's cool, right?
Yeah, that's cool. Let's do that. I don't use Facebook because privacy concerns that I have.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's a good way to do it.
And then we can share it on the live as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that way it's like recorded. So if anyone wants to go back to it, we're like, hey, check it out. We actually asked these questions already.
Yeah.
You know, and
no, that's fantastic.
We're definitely gonna send you some merch.
And Mario.
Yes.
What you said about doing something to make you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
That's so true about the bath. Man, I love a bath.
Yep.
I have more products than my wife does. I have moisturizers and stuff that I put on it.
With an amazing beard like yours, bro, you better have more products.
Come on, really? You're gonna make fun of my beard now, bro?
No, I love your beard. Look at mine. Mine's ridiculous. It's all patchy. Like, look at Mario's. Even Mario's connects in the middle. His looks good too.
No, see, Mario's beard is elegant. It's an elegant beard.
We need to stop defining our masculinity by how our beards connect, guys.
See, Fernie? See? That's what I've been telling him.
Dang it.
He lost us.
Damn it.
You still with me, Mario?
I can hear you.
All right.
What happened?
You froze for a little bit. You're still frozen though. It's awesome that thank you so much for joining us. Really, thank you so much.
Hold on. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
What happened?
I don't know. You froze.
Oh, I only froze?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was horrible. You guys froze on me.
No,
what were we talking about the beard though? Mario? You were saying something and then it cut.
I was saying we need to stop defining our masculinity by how well our beards are connected or how thick they are and how they look.
I've been telling him that. He doesn't believe me. It's a handsome
beard.
I don't.
A beard is a beard.
There you go, guys.
But I was telling Mario, I was thanking him for joining us.
Of course.
And it's so awesome that
Mario, thank you.
that you're here with us. Because, for example, I found Fernie through the same video that you found him. That exact same video, that's what made me reach out to him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all the way on the East Coast. Sometimes I jump on the live and we record. It's the next day for me, and it's still early evening for the guys. But I don't care because I'm honestly
Yeah.
I honestly believe in what what he's doing is so healthy for the community because there are a lot of guys that they don't have anybody to talk to, nobody to
Exactly.
reach out to. Um, and the same way I put Fernie in the spot, well, he already did it. He already put you in the spot. We're gonna hit you up with questions if you're okay with it. Obviously,
Of
we don't want to
course.
take so much of your time.
Of
Yeah.
Um,
course. Yeah. We want to respect your time.
but
No,
you
it's
are,
great. I'm all for it.
whether you like it or not, you're part of the team. You're part of the DLM team.
I am so proud to be part of this team.
Awesome, man. I love that, man.
Thank
And
you.
just so you know, Mario, there's a lot of emotion going on right now
Hmm.
with you saying what you're saying, man, because one of the scariest things for me is, am I doing the right thing? It
Yeah.
feels right. It feels right. But then I'm like, if some um
Mental
therapist,
health
Therapist.
professional.
yeah, yeah, here's the shit that I'm saying and I'm doing this wrong, I'm making big mistakes here, like this can go south, but I want to shoot from the heart. I want to shoot from the hip. Be like, no, I don't want to advise. I just want to say this is what I'm going through, guys. And hey, I'm going through this. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I'm a big guy, man. I'm 6 foot 280. You know what I mean? Like, grew up in gangs, and I'm a drug baby. Grew up in the hood. And so for me to sit back and cry and say all these things, it took a while for me to really be able to go through it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I will say this, and I had this conversation with my brother. I'm As weird as it sounds, I'm grateful that I went through depression, because I've only been going through depression for about 3 years, and I've been going through anxiety through 2 years. Which anxiety I hate. I can't stand anxiety, man. It cripples me. You know what I mean? But I'm grateful that I went through my depression because it's made me so empathetic towards people.
Hmm.
Like a very different type of empathy where I'm like, hey man, it's okay. Like, I don't know you, but I know that you need a hug, and let's hug this shit
Yeah.
out together. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
let's be big men and cry it out together. You know what I
Right.
mean?
That
Right?
that
Because
is
it's
that
harder
is
for, right?
yeah, yeah. I'm
And so
listen. Oh, I'm sorry.
no, no, go ahead.
I was like, for me, well, I'm not as tall as Fernie. I'm only 5'11". But I'm 290. I'm I'm not as I don't have that much thing, but I have tats. And my
Nice.
when I'm at work, I'm extremely serious. I'm sad. It's sad, but I make sure that when I walk into my job, they know that the boss is here. You know, and and a lot of people assume that I'm just an emotionless, hard ass asshole. I am a bit of an asshole. I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you that I'm a complete sweetheart when I'm not. But is being able to just to let it out and share what I'm going through, share my feelings, be open about my feelings, being open about um, not feeling all right, about needing help, about just fucking needing a hug.
Mm.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are times that I'm sitting across the table from my wife, and I call her over, like I just hug me
So
and
a
hug me
hug.
really tight.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
listen, I want to be the little spoon tonight. You know what I mean? Uh,
There's nothing wrong with that. That's totally healthy. It's wonderful. I'm
I just
glad you
want
can
to
say
feel
that.
safe.
Yeah,
Yes.
there you go. What were you
Um,
gonna say, Mario?
yeah,
Sorry.
Um, no, no, I was just going to say, and so both of you guys are really hitting on this idea of just being a support in the community. So the way that I looked on this from the very beginning was like a support group.
Hmm.
And support groups can come in very many different shapes and forms. We're just a bunch of dads trying to help other dads, trying to help ourselves, trying to help each other. And I think this work is important because in a group setting, you are in a situation where you can look at somebody else and say, "Oh, that person is feeling what I'm feeling. That person is experiencing what I'm
Mm.
experiencing." So you don't feel alone. So this is extremely important. From all the work that I've heard you guys do so far, I haven't heard anything out of line from like a mental health perspective.
Good.
Everything's been really, really solid.
Awesome.
Even my partner has heard you, and she's
No
thought
way.
really good things. Yeah. And so if something does, hey,
Say hi.
hello,
That's my daughter
hi,
Abigail,
hello, Abigail.
and
Um,
this is this is Logan.
Oh, baby.
Hello.
Say hi to Fernie and say hi to Mario.
Hi,
Hello.
Say hi. Okay, sweetie. Can you give us a second, please? Thank you. Sorry.
No, it's cool, man. It's cool. Happens all the time. Um, if something does kind of sound out of out of line, out of perspective, I will kind of let you guys know. Maybe we should rephrase this or whatever. So
we really,
That
really would appreciate
that
that,
would be
bro.
amazing, Mario.
Yeah. And your partner liked it. She saw what we're doing.
yeah, no, she's all for
Yeah.
it. She's all for it, especially now
That's awesome.
with all the lockdowns and stuff. I really haven't had like friends aren't really a thing anymore. I can
Yeah.
communicate with my
Yeah.
friends. Like we have a weekly like Among Us game on Friday nights, and that's like it. We
Hey,
don't see each other.
I play Among Us, bro. Add me.
Cool, I will.
There you
Um,
go.
but other than that, I mean, having the support group when I saw it, it was just like a relief. It was just like, oh my god, finally I can talk to somebody. Like I can be with people,
Oh, that's
and
awesome, man.
so that's the feelings I got.
That makes me feel really good that we're doing the right thing, man.
Yeah,
And we need to hear that. Dads need that affirmation,
definitely.
or the confirmation
Hmm.
as well, right?
Yes.
So thank you for that. Now, I'm going to ask all the listeners like to please respect Mario. Like, we're going to ask for his social media. So if you guys want to add him, you can, but please respect him. Don't blow him up. You guys can ask us the questions and then we'll ask him. So
Yeah.
just out of respect, like we don't want to blow him up. But you guys can add his video game handle, his Facebook.
Yeah, man.
What are your social media handles, brother?
Geez, I don't even know. Let me see.
You have Facebook?
I do have Facebook, and it's just my name. My beard was longer in the picture
There you go.
before. But as far as TikTok goes, where I found you all, I'm at Espinoza025. I have 5 followers. I don't do anything on there. It's no big deal. If you guys want to add me,
You're about to get a lot more.
Yeah.
and that's pretty much all I have. I am on Reddit, but I'm not really active. I just kind of browse through stuff.
Awesome.
That's it. Facebook and TikTok. Maybe I'll start. If we start getting questions, I'll start making videos. I guess.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
yeah.
That'd be
You
awesome,
can
man.
reply directly through your TikTok.
Yeah.
That'll be awesome. And we just do it. That'll be dope.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome to do that. And then before you went onto this this podcast, right? Before you got on here, I'm sure in your head you were like, okay, I'm gonna make sure to say this, or I'm gonna do this or do this, right? Was there anything before you went onto this podcast that you weren't able to say or that you didn't touch on that you want to touch on before we finalize it?
No. I think we did some really good work today, and this is what I was hoping for.
Awesome.
I spent the last couple of days just kind of like, oh my god, what am I going to say? They're going to think I'm some kind of imposter or something.
Yeah.
Just negative self-talk. But I think what we talked about today was what needed to be said. So I think
Yeah. And that's cool that you said that really quick in case anybody caught that. You were like, hey, they're going to think I'm an imposter, negative self-talk.
Yeah.
So, guys, we all do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like,
I'm
it's
guilty
totally
of that.
normal. Right? Me too. So, really quick, Mario, when you do get in those places where you're talking to yourself in a negative way, how do you get out of that? What do you do?
So for this particular situation, I actually talked to my partner and I let her know, hey, I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
What do you think? And her first response, like it usually is, because I often feel like an imposter. I think a lot of people have it's called imposter syndrome. She's like, stop being dumb.
Yeah.
You are a great therapist. You know what you're talking about. Like, get out of here. And then
Awesome.
the other part of her is like, no, you're gonna be fine. You know what you're talking about. Like,
Awesome.
we can get through this. It'll be fine. You're gonna do great. So having those affirmations, like you said earlier, really, really, really helps.
Yeah.
Some of us.
And I love that for the people that watch this on the YouTube, I love that you're just wearing a t-shirt.
Yeah, this is why I
on
do
here.
therapy.
You know
Yeah, I
It's
love that,
actually
I
man.
was
it's
concerned.
actually my alma mater,
Boom.
Texas University, Texas U. Yeah,
UT Austin.
And you got
yeah.
tattoos?
Yeah, I'm covered in tattoos. I got plenty of tattoos.
Look at this.
This is
Yeah.
my. I got this one after the El Paso shooting. It's just a heart with El
Oh,
Paso.
dang. That's
Oh, it's
dope.
beautiful.
Just a bunch of stuff.
See?
Most of it's just like Latin American kind of like heritage stuff. So
Yeah.
So my shit, the main bulk of my tats are shoulders and back.
There you go.
Well, listen,
And the reason I go ahead.
I'm so sorry. Go no. You go ahead.
No, no. What I was going to say is that the reason I'm highlighting all these things and the reason I'm saying, hey, look, he's just wearing a t shirt. Hey, look, he's got tattoos is creating that relatability.
mhm.
You know, like we're dads, we're relatable. Like we all go through it. Like, you know, I hope you guys learn that. Like, hey, I spoke to my spouse, my partner. You know, like sometimes we just need a little bit of affirmation, a little bit of confirmation. Like, oh, no, you're good, you're good. Like we'll get through it. You know what I mean? And for all the guys that are going through it that don't have someone they can talk to, that's what Dad Lives Matter is for. That's why we're here. So if you guys just need to talk to one of us, you guys know you can reach out to us, man. And that's one of the things. This is why we created the TikTok as well.
No, I was gonna say that I truly believe in what Fernie created, and I'm happy that we get validation from people like you,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
mental health professionals, and I'm sure I don't want to speak for Fernie, but I'm sure he didn't set out to create a therapy group, you know.
Mhm.
Mm,
But it warms my heart every time the few times I jump on the live and I see that one of the dads said, "Listen, guys, I'm going through this." The immediate response from not only the rest of the team, but from the other dads that are just in the live, brother, we got you. You need to talk. We have a listener in the
mm-hmm.
UK that he immediately reaches out
Oh
to
yeah,
to the other dads to talk,
Silver
to
Wolf.
listen. Um,
Yeah,
and every time I see that, it's just like, man, this we needed this.
yeah,
We needed this.
Yeah, I
yeah. We
agree.
did.
Because not everybody has the chance to say, you know what, let me do some basic research online, see if I can find a therapist in my area.
Yeah.
That's the last thing in some of the guys' minds.
With that being
Thank you
said,
again.
any tips for people that do need to find a therapist in their area?
Yeah, so I was actually just about to comment, and thank you for bringing that up. It's a huge step for some people. It's as scary as like we were talking about earlier about being hospitalized. It's just again, what does it mean about me? Am I crazy? Am I, why can't I handle this if I'm a man?
Yeah.
Um, and we don't need to be on our own for what we're feeling and what we're going through. So my recommendation is you can always go on Psychology Today. You can look up, people in the area. The easiest thing to do though is just go directly to your mental health authority. So I'm not too familiar with other areas. The clinic that I'm working for in southern New Mexico is pretty much the mental health authority for that area. So it's like Las Cruces, Sunland Park, Anthony, all those like southern New Mexico cities.
I don't mean to
Um,
interrupt, but you're saying your local what?
Mental health authority.
Okay, so I didn't even know that was a thing till you said this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what is that? You just Google that, or how do you?
So it really depends from area to area. So like I was saying, I'm not too familiar with other areas. Like I know
Mhm.
I work for one in New Mexico, in southern New Mexico. I used to work for one here in El Paso, which is Emergence Health Network. Um, it's basically just somebody who health for everybody, much
Mhm.
in the same way of like a state or a county hospital, medical hospital would work. They have access to all kinds of money, all kinds of free treatment, grants. My partner works for the Veterans One Stop here in El Paso. She gives basically free services to veterans in this area. There's a lot of veterans around this area, so they just have access to so many resources. You just need to find whatever the local mental health authority is in your county. So
That's
I don't
awesome.
know about you all's counties. I know for sure New York has a lot of them because someone I used to work with at EHM actually moved up to New York City and worked for their mental health authority. I don't really know what the name is.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry to interrupt real quick. In New York, even I didn't know, even though I've dealt with them for 10 years, the Department of Health,
Hmm.
you can reach out to the Department of Health.
Hmm.
The DOH has a Department of Mental Health Issues.
Yeah,
They are very welcoming. They they stay on top of you, and if you leave an email or a voicemail, they respond fast.
right away.
Even
Yeah,
during COVID.
good. And so the best thing, if you are in some kind of crisis and are trying to find out who to reach out to in your area, the best people to call would be, again, the suicide prevention hotline. I'm going to give that number again. It's just 1
Yeah,
800
please.
1-800 273 8255. They will be able to direct you. Even if you're not feeling, suicidal and you want some direction, you need some help, they will be able to tell you where to go in your area for sure.
And Freddie, can we make sure that we add that number in the description, please?
Absolutely, it's gonna be in the description. It's gonna be also on the YouTube links.
Awesome, man.
Cool.
Mario, anything else you want to finish off with before we close off?
No. I think I'm good. I think we said, like I said, we said what we need to say. Um, it's a pleasure, guys. Really, it's awesome working with you guys.
Dude, it's a pleasure to have you.
I was saying that I was super excited for today's call.
He
That's why
was
I
super
was
excited.
emailing you and making sure that listen.
Yeah,
I just want to confirm that you got it.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
He was
it
blowing
was
me
really
up.
important to have you.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
Man,
glad.
well,
I
welcome to the
was.
team.
What was that?
I was saying welcome to the team.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I was just like you guys. I was like, what are they going to ask me? Like, am I going to have to show them my license to prove that I'm licensed? Like, what's going to happen? But no, I'm really glad this went really well. You guys made me feel really comfortable. So I'm glad I was able to get this info out. It's when I think about it, for me, it's like common sense. It's like, who doesn't know about this? But I know
Right.
realistically, there are tons of people out there that don't have this information, and I'm just
Of
really glad
course.
to get it out.
There's a lot of people that don't have this information. So I'm really glad that we're able to talk about this. And Mario, from being here with us, man, we are extremely grateful to you. I'm glad that we can keep you in our group. I'm glad that we're going to be able to have you and ask you a couple questions down the road. Obviously, we're going to send you some merchandise once we get the. Right now, we don't actually have printed physical merchandise, which we're going to get soon. As soon as we get it, man, we're definitely going to send it out there to at least say, hey, this is a great way. We appreciate you. Like Freddie said, welcome to the team, bro. We're
Yeah.
so stoked. And I think that's it, guys. We're going to go ahead and close that off. So thank you guys for listening tonight. Freddie, you want to say bye to everybody? The co-host, Freddie?
Guys, thank you so much for listening. This has been so far one of my favorite episodes to record, and hopefully not the
Yeah,
last with Mario.
Hopefully not.
definitely
Uh,
not.
I'll be around.
Definitely not. And for you guys, by this time, by the time you guys catch this episode, you guys are going to be aware that Freddie is the co-host. He keeps saying he's going to mute himself every single episode. He's like, I'm going to mute myself. I'm just in the background. Nope, he's not. He's our co-host. So
yeah,
big welcome
guys,
to our
yeah.
co-host. He's officially our co-host now. So again, Mario, thank you. Freddie, thank you guys. Again,
Thank
to all
you,
our
guys.
listeners, thank you guys. You guys already know what we ask, man. The only thing we ask from you guys is that you do share our episode, that you do rate the episode, because it really does help us boost up to the top. That's our goal. Our goal is to grow the podcast. That's what this is all about. The TikTok's awesome. The MySpace is awesome. All that stuff's awesome. But our main goal for Dad Lives Matter is to blow up the podcast, to get it in as many people as we can in their hands. So please help us by doing that, guys. We really appreciate you guys. And with that being said, we are out of here. You guys have a good night.